Hi Flosstube, I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle, and I had a really hard time putting down my stitching for long enough to set up the camera and start recording this, but I have things I want to show you, and today is the day I have time to do it, so we're doing Flosstube. It is Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. I wrote it down on my notes so I wouldn't be guessing. I have an FFO, and if you watch my Flosstube videos, you will know how rare it is that I actually FFO something. This is just one more page by Night Spirit Studios. I finished mine into a Kindle sleeve. Not that I ever would put my Kindle in a protective sleeve because I just leave it sitting wherever, but I could if I wanted to. I backed it with some Halloween fabric that I have been carefully hoarding. It only took an 8x10 or so inch piece, and I lined it with some purple that I really like, and I have several yards of this purple. I don't know why. I don't remember buying it. That could be because it's a thrift store find or something my mom gave me, or I don't know. I love the way this turned out. I love the pattern. It is perfect for a book sleeve or a Kindle sleeve. And if I don't keep a book or my Kindle in it, I could slide something in here, a book, and prop it up on my mantle and have it ready to display. So I am liking this idea. I'm thinking I might need seasonal Kindle sleeves just to have the edges finished in a way to display them. Or I could start protecting my Kindle like a reasonable person. I did throw together a quick tutorial showing how I finished it. This is easy, easy, easy if you have basic sewing skills. And I will put description in the box. I will put a link in the description box below. You would think as many times as I say that phrase that I would know how to say it. It is almost as bad as GameStop stocks. We have been reading up about hedge funds at our house and bird watching, and it's been a fun week. Other thing, I am stitching like crazy. So I started one more page in January, and I started this one in January, and that is upside down and sideways. This is First Evening in Their Own Home. It is a Riolis kit. I started it for the Stitching Stories with Riolis SAL, and this SAL has got me motivated like you would not believe. I am having so much fun with her. So this is her dress. This is the tablecloth. Right up here, we'll get to where they're holding hands. And if you can't visualize that, and I do not blame you if you can't visualize that, here's what it's going to look like. I'm still down here. I am loving this, and this is the project that I had to force myself to put down so I could quickly film a Flosstube update on a day when the house is quiet and I am here and the filming time is available. I got bored with the cheese. The cheese and I are not on the best of terms at this moment, which is fine, because I pulled out European Bistro. I decided that maybe every single thing that I'm working on does not need to be a Riolis kit right now, even though I love them. I pulled out European Bistro, and I started this window here, and it doesn't show obviously on the chart while I'm stitching, but the magic is happening, and I can start to see these arches back within the building, and I love it. So much of this is half stitches, so it goes really quickly. And first evening in their own home is also going quickly, so I am having so much fun. I pulled out some of my Dollar Store yarn, Dollar Tree, worsted just yarn acrylic. Started another pair of socks. I can't remember what date I started these. It was after the last Flosstube update. I am through the heel. It's something to pick up when I need to move my hands. And they're warm. And they'll keep my toes toasty, and that works. And I pulled out some of my Dollar Tree Just Cotton because I wanted to knit it up so I could do kind of a yarn review. This is the Almost Lost dishcloth pattern. There are lots of free patterns out there that do round dishcloths, and it's short rows. So you cast on 14 stitches, and then through short rows you make wedges and put them together in a circle, and they are fun and they are quick and they are just fiddly enough to not be boring without being hard, unless you line that seam up wrong when you're sewing it, because this one is like a deformed snail shell, but I'm going to use it to wipe up things in the kitchen, so I'm not motivated enough to pick out the seam and restitch it. I would honestly rather start from scratch and knit another dishcloth than I would to fix this, which I know there's that whole, if it's worth doing right and all of that, but no, it's a dishcloth. As long as it is not going to fall apart, and it won't, it's fine. And at the rate that I wear these out and lose them, give me 6 months and nobody will even know this dishcloth ever existed. I have been struggling with my stitching this week. I have been breaking threads. I've been tangling threads. I know it's good thread. It is floss, it is not thread. It took me way, way too long to realize that it's not me. It's not the floss. I had a bad needle. I don't know what made the needle bad. I assume there was some flaw in the eye, but I switched to a different needle this morning and suddenly I'm not tangling and tearing and snapping threads, and my life is so much easier. So even when you know better, if something isn't working, stop for 30 seconds and look at maybe why it's not working. Because sometimes the fix is just so ridiculously easy and can greatly improve your quality of life. And I have a list. I have a halfway coherent train of thought. I have just been reveling in the stitching. And the weather has been as nice as it's going to be in Oregon in January. We have been bird watching. I am not a bird watcher. But this week it has been all about the bird watching. The bald eagles are migrating, and my trip to the grocery store puts me on the migratory path of the bald eagles, and I cannot tell you how much that entertains me. I was probably in my early 20s the first time I saw a bald eagle, and my husband and I were driving through Yellowstone National Park, and I saw one. I had never seen one in the wild. It took a ridiculously long time for my brain to accept that that big bird flying there with the white head and the dark body was a bald eagle, because it's not a unicorn. And not terribly long after we moved down to this house, that was 15 or so years ago, the kids and I were on our way up to karate classes in Salem and at the on-ramp to the highway. And I saw 5 bald eagles. And I came home and I told my husband about it, and I don't think he believed me, because we had not at that point figured out that we now live where the bald eagles migrate through. My daughter and I went on a clearance shopping trip to Dollar General, and on the trip to 3 different Dollar Generals, I saw 4 bald eagles. She saw 1. Hers was carrying what she said was a ferret, but I'm sure must have been a mink. So hers was more exciting than mine that were just sitting in trees. Then my husband and I went out for a drive in the country specifically looking for birds, and I think that day we saw 7. And when I went grocery shopping with my middle son the other day, I saw several more. So they are out there and they are gorgeous, and it is just, I can get really excited about wildlife, even if it is the same wildlife that is always there. There's a farm between us and the grocery store that has zebras. And I have to look for the zebras every time we drive past, because they're zebras. It doesn't matter how many times I've driven past them. They're still neat. And my husband and I, on our bird watching drive, we saw something in a tree that was way bigger than a bald eagle that it might have been a golden eagle. Neither of us got a great enough look at that distance, but maybe. Whatever it was big and it was gorgeous. We went down to one of the wildlife refuges and they had red-winged blackbirds migrating that were doing that swoopy, what is it called, a murmuration. And it was just the coolest thing. And we saw coyotes and we saw deer. And I'm all about the wildlife this week. I have a dimensions kit with or sunset. I have a cross stitch kit with a bald eagle, but I'm telling myself that with all the other things I want to start right this second, the eagle can wait a little while. Or if I can hold the idea in my head long enough and still want to desperately start the eagle, then yeah, I'll start the eagle. I am starting new projects when I want to. And my daughter and I went thrifting. If you saw that video, I got serious sticker shock when it came to some discontinued wool yarn. I did a little more research, did a little more math, and for $50, that is not even enough yardage to make an adult, not a plus size adult, just an adult, a sweater. So I don't know what they're thinking. Maybe it's marked up so that a senior citizen will get it on half price day, which still seems too much for that yarn. And I've got teenage gamers in the house, so we have learned all about hedge funds this week. I sort of vaguely knew what a hedge fund was. I now less vaguely sort of have more of an idea what a hedge fund is. At least it gave us a good excuse to study how the stock market works in some really basic terms, and I think because current events made it interesting, maybe it will stick in their heads, and that's one of the things I love about homeschooling. And honestly, if they get to adulthood and do not work in finance and do not invest heavily, they probably don't need to know what hedge funds are. I made it this long without knowing. Thanks for watching. I am Michelle. This is my romantic tangle. I hope that this is somewhat coherent. I wanted to show you my projects and how much I've got done because I am so ridiculously excited about how much I have got done after my long dry spell of barely stitching. Let me know. Are you stitching in the new year in the first months of 2021? How's it going? I'm Michelle, this is my romantic tangle, and I'll be back with you with more videos soon.